So there's going to be a dialogue exchange between Catherine Atkinson, a Labour MP, and Alex Phillips that works for Talk TV. And Catherine Atkinson's basically going to say that multiculturalism has done X, Y, and Z. And Alex Phillips is basically going to come with a counter argument saying, yeah, that's cool, multiculturalism, but Britain needs to be Britain. You know, it's a Christian country. You can't be walking around with your face covered. You know, it needs to be gone. You know, we need to be teaching English at school. People need to be speaking English. You can't just have communities in the United Kingdom whereby they're closed off and they do not integrate properly with the rest of the people here, because that's how friction builds up. That's how a mess just builds up, quite frankly, like what you've seen all over, you know, the United Kingdom. I even covered one in my last video with the Romanians in central London. So Alex Phillips is basically just going to say that this is Britain. Britain needs to be Britain, very simply. Anyway, guys, let's get straight into the debate.
Keir Starmer talked about an island of strangers. Do you think that there needs to be more done?
He said we didn't want to become an island of strangers, and of course community cohesion and integration is important, and the government are taking steps to look at English requirements, but we absolutely can't lose sight of the contribution for decades that we have seen from immigration. I'm a Derby MP and really proud of that contribution, which isn't just in the NHS but also in our industries, and so.
But I don't think anyone's necessarily arguing with that, are they? They're talking about how much you adopt,
and it's about how you
the culture of the country.
And I think that language is a huge part of that, to enable people to fully be able to appreciate and be a part of our communities, and I think that's right. But I certainly wouldn't want to see kind of pulling down, tearing down or emptying properties when we've had so little building of especially social housing and affordable housing for so long. And I'd much rather welcome, as I do, the 39 billion that we'll see to build more affordable and social housing.
Alex, what do you make of what you saw in that documentary? And do you think it applies in any way to what's happening in this country?
Of course it applies to this country. We already have balkanised communities, and that spells out a great peril for the future of societal integration. And you've got similar policies being adopted in Sweden. These are sort of proposals that are now being looked into across Europe, because we've realised what's happened with levels of immigration and lack of integration is creating social disquiet and disharmony to the point in which people are even starting to use words such as civil war, for crying out loud. Now, I think there is nothing wrong with defending your national cultural mores, your communal morality, and I think that that's what we need to be doing. I fully agree we need to ban the full face covering, which they've done in Denmark. I think that is absolutely right. I think that is a barrier for integration if you're not making eye contact. English language is vitally important. I think we need to look at the amount of translation services we offer. I personally would go as far as getting rid of faith schools that are not Catholic or C of E, which tend to allow children from other faiths to come in, because I don't think taking children away and educating them primarily in their own cultural context is healthy. And I personally would also go as far as banning the slaughter of animals that haven't been pre-stunned. And I'd say to anybody who says, well, we don't like that and we demand exceptions because of what we want within our system, this is our country. We believe in animal welfare. We don't believe that women should be shamed for exposing their faces. And we believe little children should all play in a sandpit together. Simple.
Liz?
I'm going to have to react to the piece that we just saw from Simon Reeves, because we're talking about forced evictions there. And that's the comparison that we are discussing today. This is really bad stuff for us to be talking about in Europe. We've been here before. And when I came in, what I wanted to talk about actually was the fact that in Denmark, they are prepared, they're quite resigned to paying 46% of their income on taxation. We only spend 34% here, so that in Denmark, of course, there is much more money within the public services to try and integrate into communities. But what we're hearing, and we're hearing it today from Alex, is this rhetoric of division. Of course, we must find a way to bring our communities together.
So how do you do that?
About a civil war.
No, I say other people have started saying that, and that's alarming. Rhetoric of division. I'm talking about making sure people are brought together and not divided.
You came on television and you used that term.
No, it's very clear.
She said other people had been saying it.
Reached the point that other people are warning of that. That's frightening.
A tactic of raising things and then couching it in that sort of term. But this language that we're using.
Do you think that there aren't divisions? Do you think that anything does need to be done, or you don't think that?
I think when
Based
we were talking about schools just now, you could equally apply that, and it'll be interesting next year with reforms policies about Welsh medium schools in Wales, quite frankly. Of course we have to have common values. Of course we have to have...
And how far should the state make sure that happens? In terms of speaking the same language?
Has a role in making communities safer. We don't have youth clubs anymore. We've lost libraries. 14 years of austerity, which this government are continuing, that has a direct effect on how our communities hang together. This high rhetoric just drives further divisions. If we really want to make a difference to our communities, we have to do the boring stuff, the expensive stuff. If we value community cohesion, which I think they actually do in many of the countries of Scandinavia, we don't get that on the cheap with a load of American-style divisive rhetoric.
Is this the danger, Neil, in Kemi Basingstoke looking at this? I mean, some of what's happening in Denmark has been criticised by human rights groups.
Look, Kemi hasn't said she's going to adopt the Denmark proposals wholesale. What she said is she's going to look at this issue. I think that's an eminently sensible thing to do. You're the leader of the opposition. You are formulating your policy platform. We know that this is a significant issue that comes up on the doorsteps up and down the country. There are tensions within our communities. I think if we pretend that there aren't, that would be disingenuous. And so it is quite right we look at what options are available in order to make sure that we have more societal cohesion. That is a sensible approach, and it's a grown-up approach.
Guys, the UK doesn't need any Danish-style integration plan. You know, that model might work for the Danes, but it won't necessarily work for the Brits. I honestly believe that Britain needs to go back to what's worked for so long, which is British values, which was founded upon Christian values. That's it. You know, you don't need to... People can come into the country and they can contribute 110%. In America, it works perfectly. You've got people from all walks of life that go over to America and they make America great. You know, you've got like, you know, tech geniuses from India going to America, working in Silicon Valley and just exceeding expectations, doing amazing there, and that's absolutely amazing. But in the United Kingdom, we have people coming in that aren't contributing, number one, and number two, they have different ideas and they want to change the UK into where they were running away from. And of course that poses a threat to the people in the United Kingdom, you know, because they're coming and they're trying to change the culture that has worked for so long. They're trying to change somewhat of a democracy which we have, which is not really democracy, but somewhat of the little freedom we have left. They're trying to take that away and they're trying to install their own culture, which the majority do not subscribe to. So yeah, but anyway guys, let me know in the comment section down below what you think about that. I believe Alex Phillips was correct. You know, this is Britain, and you know, British values are XYZ, and people coming in need to uphold those same value systems and integrate more. Very simple. So yeah, but anyway guys, let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Like, comment and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.